Hola, Sebastián.
This is an 8th grade Spanish class in Brooklyn Friends School in New York. The students in this class are between 13 and 14 years old, and there are about 15 in each class. They all speak English, but in this class, the students are learning how to speak Spanish. In most schools in the U.S., students have to learn a foreign language, but they don't have to choose Spanish. In this school, for example, students can also learn French, Italian, and even Latin. Whatever language they choose, they will have 4 to 5 55-minute periods every week, and they'll have to take a test at the end of the year. Today, these students are learning about verbs.
¿Mi acento o no acento?
The teacher explains the grammar, and the students have to take notes and answer questions. Discipline in class is very strict.
Pero tú fuiste, y tú fuiste, y tú fuiste, y tú fuiste.
The teacher doesn't allow chatting, and the students have to follow the
¿Qué
rules.
fue lo que te gustó más?
Me gustó mucho.
Technology is becoming more popular in American classrooms.
Le frasi negative con l'affermativo.
This teacher is using an interactive whiteboard to practice vocabulary and pronunciation.
Non è niente vero, it's nothing true, or what's the other? I see that, because now it's...
Most students enjoy learning a new language. This is Vanessa Ayler, a Spanish teacher at Brooklyn Friends School.
Hi, my name's Vanessa. I'm a Spanish teacher at Brooklyn Friends School in New York City. I love working with the students. They love language. I like being there to see them experience new things about the language for the first time. They are just so bright and they have so much to share. They're really creative and they, I think, enjoy my experiences with the language as well. So that not only allows me to relive my experiences, but I get to see it again kind of for the first time through their eyes.
Christine usually sits in the front.
This is an English lesson at the New York Language Center. It's a private language school in Midtown Manhattan.
I like to watch the news because I like to be...
The classes here are quite small.
All the time. Yeah.
There are usually about 8 students in each class.
That's good.
Very serious. You need to relax too.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Most of the students here are adults, and they come from a lot of different countries.
You don't know television very well. Yeah. You killed...
Because these students are adults, discipline isn't a big problem.
Too dramatic. Government. So just like this.
The teacher and the students try to have fun,
Maybe your partner can help you, okay?
and a lot of the activities involve working and speaking in pairs and groups.
Sure.
The teacher must be active, enthusiastic, and hardworking.
Exactly, Grey's Anatomy.
This is Kelsey McGuff.
It's a long...
She's an English teacher at the New York Language Center.
Cooking, okay.
She explains what teaching English is like.
Is the word we use. Hi, I'm Kelsey, and I'm an English teacher in New York City. The best part about teaching English is interacting with people. I really love hearing the conversations that happen in class, and I really love learning about other people's countries. Our students come from all over. We have students from Asia, from the Middle East, from Central Asia, from Africa, from Europe, from Central and South America, so it's a really nice mix here at the school. So our students come to this school for a whole variety of reasons. Some people come here because they're interested in starting a business, and for that business they need to know English. A lot of other people come to this school because they want to go to an American university at some point. And a lot of people just come here for vacation. They come for a couple of weeks and then study at our school while they explore New York City and just try to improve their English while they're here. Sometimes it's difficult to motivate the students. We have a couple of students who are here for a very long time, maybe a year, while they're on while they have a student visa. And sometimes they get a little bit lazy. So sometimes it's difficult to motivate those students to keep on trying to improve and keep studying English. I like to play a lot of games in class. We do a lot of interactive activities, a lot of activities where people are moving around and getting to know each other more. I also like to take my students out into the city. So right now I'm teaching a class that's called Explore New York, and every week we go on a different trip and we go to a different place in New York City. It's not a tourist place. We go out and we go to Harlem, or we go to different neighborhoods outside in the outer boroughs. And that's really fun because they get to see different parts of the city. So the best piece of advice I can give for someone who's trying to learn English is to not be afraid of speaking with people in English. People should not be afraid of making mistakes, and they should just get out there, talk to people, make conversations, and have fun.
The weather, perfect.
Teaching English in a private class is very different to teaching Spanish in a high school. But both involve working hard and having fun.
You can watch the comedy and feel better.
Hi, I'm Connor Lee. I'm 28 years old. I'm from Montreal, Canada. For work, I'm a salesman. I'm really lucky because I get to travel the world. I have friends all over the world. Here, look. This is my friend Gabriel and his sister, Sarah. He's 25 years old and she is 26. He's from California. He's a tour guide and he lives in Bolivia. This is him in a really small plane. He does amazing things for his job every day. Here are some pictures of him last week. Here he is on Monday, scuba diving. Here he is on Tuesday, hiking. On Wednesday, here he is in the jungle. On Thursday, playing with some animals. Here he is Friday, back in La Paz. This is Gabe with his two sisters, Sarah and Molly. They are on vacation in Colombia. I am excited to visit him soon. Here's another friend of mine. Her name is Cecilia. She is 29 years old. Cecilia is from Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. She is a journalist there. Cecilia loves her cat, Pedro. And she loves her cell phone. She is a journalist, so she's always on Twitter. Cecilia is also a very good photographer. These are pictures from a carnival party. She's a very good friend. She likes to smile. Here's my old friend, Sam. He is 22 years old. He's from Washington, D.C., the capital of the United States. But his family is from Liberia, West Africa. Sam is in college and also a poet. Here's another friend. Her name's Emily, and she is 23 years old. And that's her new puppy, Marcus. Emily's from London, England. She's in college and she is studying history. And this is my friend Trevor. He's 27 years old. He's from Canada, but he lives in New York City now. Trevor is an actor. Here he is with his team last Sunday. Here's the trophy. Trevor is very funny. He's a good friend. Here's my friend Antonio. He's from Florence, Italy. Antonio's from Italy, but he works with me in Montreal. He's 25 years old. These are some of my friends. I'm really lucky.
This is Jin Chong. He lives in Washington, D.C., and he's a chef. Jin Chong works 6 days a week, and he's always very busy. This is a typical day in his life. Jin Chong usually gets up at 7 a.m. He stretches and gets dressed. He always has a big breakfast. He often cooks eggs and makes toast. He has coffee every morning. He never drinks anything else. Jin Chong leaves the house around 8 a.m. He usually cycles, but sometimes he takes the bus. He doesn't have a car, so he never drives. Jin Chong always goes to the market before he starts work. Here, he buys fresh vegetables. He buys tomatoes, broccoli, peppers, and eggs. Jin Chong arrives at work around 9 a.m. He opens the restaurant and starts cooking. First, he prepares the vegetables. He chops onions and tomatoes. Then he cooks the meat. He grills beef and chicken. For the rest of the day, Jin Chong is very busy. He doesn't have a break until 3 p.m., and he doesn't finish until 7 p.m. When he finishes, he goes home, prepares his dinner, and goes to bed. He rarely stays up late. In fact, he usually goes to bed around 9 p.m., so he's ready for another busy day tomorrow.
This is London, the capital of Britain. And this is Trafalgar Square, in the centre of London. London is very busy, with lots of tourists. This is Lambert Souvenirs. Many tourists come to this shop. These are keychains. They are souvenirs of London. This keychain is the London Underground logo. These are sweatshirts. This sweatshirt is red, and that sweatshirt is blue. These sweatshirts are expensive, but these t-shirts are cheap. These are bags. This bag has the British flag on it. These toys are also souvenirs of London. This toy is a London taxi, and this toy is a red London bus. These postcards are of London and all the city's interesting places. This calendar and these books are about the royal family. Outside the shop, these sunglasses are great. These visitors are from France. And these visitors are from Canada. Lambert's Souvenirs is their favourite shop.
There are about 700,000 police officers in the United States. They work for different kinds of police departments. They work for state, city, and county police forces. These forces can be very big, like the New York City Police Department. There are over 34,000 police officers in New York. Scott Kenzel is a police officer in the borough of Allendale, New Jersey. He works for the New Jersey State Police. It is a small police force. It only has 4,500 police officers. Scott usually works during the day, but sometimes he works at night. On a day shift, he starts work at 7 o'clock in the morning. He works until 5 o'clock in the evening. On a night shift, he starts at 9 o'clock in the evening and works until 7 o'clock in the morning. He usually works 40 hours a week. Like all American police officers, Scott wears a special uniform. He keeps his uniform here, in his locker. In the summer, he wears black boots, black pants, a safety vest, and a black shirt. In the winter, he wears the same clothes, but he has a warmer jacket. Scott has a lot of equipment. He wears a radio so he can always be in contact with his command center. He also carries a baton, a gas spray, and a pair of handcuffs. Scott also carries a gun. All American police officers have guns. Every day, Scott leaves the police station and goes on patrol. He usually patrols in a black and white police car. Scott does a lot of work in his car. He uses a computer and a radio. Being a police officer is difficult, but there's a lot of variety. Scott works in the office and out on patrol. It's also a very important job. Every day, Scott catches criminals and keeps New Jersey safe.
Hi, I'm Sarah. I'm a Pilates instructor. Good. Nice. Now face your palms down onto the mat. I really love my job because I love working with people.
Press on it and then it just feels sensitive.
Okay. Does it hurt when you move? I work 6 days a week. Usually I get up at 7 a.m. to go to work. Okay, now see if you can keep your tailbone as much down on the mat. Every day when I wake up, I take a shower, brush my teeth, make coffee, and read the news. I don't have a TV, so I do everything on my computer. Usually I go to work at 9 a.m., but on my days off, I don't like to leave the house.
Today is Sarah's day off, so she isn't going to work. At the moment, she's reading. But Sarah does a lot of other things on her days off. So, What is she doing today?
I'm learning to play the guitar, but I'm not very good at it yet.
Sarah practices the guitar every day. She can't play it very well, but she's improving all the time. Sarah also likes to knit. She can knit very well. She's knitting a sweater for her brother.
Bonjour. Bonjour.
Sarah is also learning a new language.
I don't have a lot of time on work days, but on my day off, I like to practice learning French. Bonjour.
Sarah has French classes twice a week.
Je suis américain. Américain.
She has a friend from France called Eve. Today, she's talking to Eve on Skype. Sarah also does some housework. She's watering the plants and washing the dishes. But she isn't doing a lot of housework. She just wants to relax. This is Carolina Santos Reed. She's from the United States, but she has a lot of family in Brazil. In 3 weeks, Carolina and her husband are going to go there on vacation. At the moment, she's planning the trip, but it's difficult. She's going to stay in Brazil for 4 weeks, so she's going to need a lot of things.
I have a suitcase, a passport, some bathing suits, some sunscreen, some clothes, too many shoes, and there's plenty of other things I want to bring.
Carolina isn't going to take all of these things. Her husband Kurt is going to need some space too. Carolina and Kurt also went to Brazil 2 years ago. They went to the beach and they ate at a very famous restaurant. Carolina loves seafood, so Kurt bought her some fish. But they didn't visit Carolina's family. This time, they are going to go to the family farmhouse in the Brazilian countryside to spend time with them. But they aren't going to stay at the farmhouse all the time. They're going to do lots of other things. Kurt loves soccer. Carolina's cousin Eduardo bought him a ticket to a soccer match. Carolina isn't going to go. She doesn't like soccer. She's going to go paragliding instead. And they're both going to go camping with the rest of the family. Kurt and Carolina are really looking forward to their trip. They're going to have a great time. This is the inn at Irving Place. A small boutique hotel in the Gramercy Park neighborhood in New York City. This building is around 180 years old. In 1834, it was 2 family homes. In fact, the inn at Irving Place didn't open until 1994. But it isn't modern. There is antique furniture, a tiled floor, and a large open fire. So it looks like a hotel from the 19th century. Sean Redstadt, the general manager, describes the hotel.
At the inn at Irving Place, there are 12 guest rooms, 4 parlor salons, and 1 reception salon, as well as a restaurant.
The hotel is small. There isn't a gym, a swimming pool, or a spa. But the interior is very beautiful. The rooms are all very elegant and old-fashioned. In each one, there is a large bed. On the bed, there are comfortable pillows. There's a table, a lamp, an armchair, and a painting on the wall. Each room has a bathroom, too. There is a bath, a shower, and a sink. The inn at Irving Place is also famous for Lady Mendel's tea salon. In the Victorian era, tea drinking was very popular. Rich people went to each other's houses to drink tea. They didn't only drink tea, they also ate cakes. They always did this in the afternoon, so they called it afternoon tea. Today, lots of people still enjoy a Victorian afternoon tea at Lady Mendel's Tea Salon in the inn at Irving Place.
California is a state on the west coast of the United States. It is a very big state, from Mexico in the south up to Oregon in the north. There are 3 big cities in California: San Francisco in the north, San Diego in the south, and between these two, Los Angeles, or LA. Los Angeles is a very busy city. Nearly 4 million people live there. There are lots of different districts in the city, places like Santa Monica on the coast and Pasadena in the east. Some of these districts are very rich. This is Beverly Hills. It is a famous area in the north of the city. This street is Rodeo Drive. It has a lot of expensive shops. LA, especially the Hollywood area, is the home of the movies. One of the reasons for this is the good weather. You need good weather to make movies. Hollywood is also the home of the movie studios. This is the headquarters of Sony Pictures. Sony make the Spider-Man and the Men in Black movies. They do not make many movies in Hollywood today because it is too expensive. In fact, they make movies in Canada, in England, in Eastern Europe, and sometimes in Australia and New Zealand. But the movie industry employs lots of people in Los Angeles. About 250,000 in total. Many actors, writers, and directors live in the city. And the studios also employ a lot of agents and lawyers too. Hollywood does not make many movies anymore, but it makes a lot of television programs. In fact, programs like CSI and Glee, which are set in Las Vegas and Ohio, are actually made in Hollywood. New York is the #1 city to visit in the United States. When we think of New York, we think of places like the Empire State Building, Central Park, and Times Square. In fact, many visitors to New York spend all their time in Manhattan. But New York is actually 5 different boroughs, and Manhattan is just one of them. The other boroughs are Queens, Staten Island, the Bronx, and Brooklyn. Welcome to Williamsburg, my neighborhood in New York. It is not on Manhattan Island, but it is across the East River in Brooklyn. Williamsburg is a great place to live. It is home to many different communities from all over the world. It is a very fashionable part of New York. A lot of artists and musicians now live in the neighborhood. And because it is so fashionable and people like living here, houses and apartments are now very expensive. The main street in Williamsburg is Bedford Avenue. On Bedford Avenue, there are lots of fashionable shops and restaurants. Williamsburg is now also very popular with tourists. And many of these visitors come to Bedford Avenue to visit the shops, restaurants, and street stores. You can see other interesting things on Bedford Avenue. These street artists are painting a mural on the wall. But the #1 store to visit in Williamsburg is not on Bedford Avenue. Beacon's Closet is a store full of second-hand clothes. People bring in their old clothes for the store to sell. Young people buy these vintage clothes because they are very fashionable. Williamsburg is now so popular that new buildings are going up all the time. This building is going to be a new hotel, and these are new apartments. But there is a problem. Apartments in Williamsburg are now so expensive that many of my neighbors are moving back across the East River to Manhattan.
Edinburgh is the capital city of Scotland. It is a very beautiful old city. About 400,000 people live in the city, and 6 million people visit every year. Every year in August, there is a festival in the city with a lot of theatre, music, dance, and comedy.
I think one of us is soon to get the chop.
The original city was built on the Royal Mile. This is a street in Edinburgh's Old Town. The Royal Mile is about 1.6 kilometres long. It starts at Holyrood Palace and finishes at Edinburgh Castle. It is called the Royal Mile because it connects two royal homes. The castle is nearly 1,000 years old. It stands on an enormous piece of volcanic rock and it looks down on the rest of the city. King David I of Scotland was the first king who built on the rock in about 1130. He built this chapel and named it Queen Mary's Chapel, after his mother. For the next 300 years, the castle was at the centre of wars between England and Scotland. In the 15th century, the castle became the home of the King of Scotland. Each new king added to the castle. In 1511, James IV built the Great Hall. In the 16th century, James VI added extra defences to the castle entrance. In the 18th century, Scotland officially became part of the United Kingdom. The last battle at the castle was in 1745 when Prince Charles Edward Stuart, who was nicknamed Bonnie Prince Charlie, tried to capture the castle. In the early 19th century, the castle was a prison, but it is now a tourist attraction. About 1.25 million people visit the castle every year. They come to see the buildings and to hear the stories. They also come to see and hear the 1 o'clock gun. Soldiers fire this every day at exactly 1 o'clock. But they really come for the views of the city of Edinburgh.
The United States is the home of the movies. American filmmakers produce thousands of movies here in Hollywood. But Americans don't just make movies, they watch them too. Today, there are almost 6,000 movie theaters in the US. There are huge movie theaters and small movie theaters. And they show all kinds of movies. Over the last century, movie theaters have changed dramatically. But this movie theater in Williamsburg, New York, looks like it hasn't changed since the 1920s. Nighthawk Cinema combines the best of modern and classic cinema. Nighthawk's owners took old movie equipment from other movie theaters. And they beautifully recreated an old-fashioned lobby, ticket booth, and theater. The theater still shows old movies, too. Every day, Nighthawk's staff carefully chooses old and new movies. They show some movies on 35mm film. Movie theaters have used this kind of film for over a century. Nighthawk also shows modern digital films. And they sell movies on DVD. But Nighthawk Cinema doesn't just show or sell movies. They give you the whole movie-going experience. Have you ever eaten in a movie theater? No? Well, you can here. Each of these seats has a table. Here, you can eat gourmet food and have a drink. Nighthawk Cinema is a modern movie theater that hasn't forgotten cinema's fascinating history. Sandwich. An item of food consisting of 2 pieces of bread with a filling between them, eaten as a light meal. The word sandwich probably comes from John Montagu, the 4th Earl of Sandwich. He was an Englishman who lived in the 18th century. He loved playing cards, and he didn't want to stop playing to eat. With a sandwich, he could play and eat at the same time. But the sandwich did not become popular because of John Montagu. In fact, the sandwich became popular in England in the 19th century when people began to work longer hours and needed something practical to take to work. Soon, workers in the United States started to eat sandwiches too. Today, the sandwich is the most popular snack in the world. The average American eats 193 sandwiches a year. And it looks like the sandwich is going to be a national favorite for a long time to come. Sandwiches are popular because they're simple. All you need is some bread and some filling, like a slice of cheese and some meat. You don't have any cheese or meat? Don't worry. You can put anything in a sandwich. This is Eastern District, a sandwich shop in Brooklyn, New York. Here, you can buy cheese, meat, snacks, chips, and sandwiches. A lot of sandwiches. Lunchtime is the busiest time of the day in Eastern District. Lots of people buy sandwiches when they're at work. They are quicker and easier to eat than a full meal, but they can still be healthy and filling. Eastern District is always thinking of ways to make their sandwiches tastier and more interesting. They have a lot of classic sandwiches, like cheese and pickle, and ham and cheese. But they have some more unusual sandwiches too. Soon they're going to introduce a salmon, goat cheese, and onion sandwich. Delicious. So, how many sandwiches do you sell a day?
We sell on a good day, we sell 50 sandwiches.
How much do people spend on their lunch?
On average, people spend about $10 for lunch.
Which sandwiches are the most popular?
Our most popular sandwich is the ham and cheddar with mustard.
What's your favorite sandwich?
Let me decide here. Okay, my personal favorite sandwich is the prosciutto with ricotta cheese and olives and fresh greens.
The sandwich has changed a lot since John Montague's time, but it's still as popular as ever.
This is Marwell Wildlife in Hampshire, England. It was started in 1972, and since then, it has become one of the most popular wildlife parks in the UK. 500,000 people come here every year. They come to visit well-known animals like giraffes, tigers, monkeys and rhinos, as well as more exotic animals like the snow leopard, the Somali wild ass, and the ring-tailed quachi. There are reptiles like this green tree python, and birds like these flamingos. However, Marwell Wildlife is different to other wildlife parks and zoos. It's a charity dedicated to the conservation of different species of animals. Some of these species are endangered, like the gravy zebra, with a population of just over 3,000. And some are near extinction, like the Siberian tiger, which has a population of less than 250, or the Amur leopard, with only 30 pairs of adults left in the wild. For 40 years, staff have brought animals like these to Marwell because their natural habitats, the places they live in, have been destroyed by humans and by climate change. It's a sad fact, but if these animals were left in the wild, they probably wouldn't survive. In Marwell Wildlife, they live and breed safely, and unlike many other zoos and wildlife parks, they have lots of space. However, Marwell Wildlife hasn't always been like this. It used to be smaller and used to have fewer animals. But in the last 20 years, the park has grown from 120 acres to 150 acres. It has become a more open park, where the animals have much more space. Marwell is now home to 235 different species, and in total, 1,200 animals live in the park. If it weren't for Marwell Wildlife's conservation work, many of these animals would be extinct in the wild. Sadly, though, some of them already are. This is the scimitar oryx. They are a type of antelope that used to live all over North Africa. They have always been hunted for their large horns, and now there are none left in the wild. They only live in places like Marwell Wildlife, where they are part of a breeding program. The park hopes that if more oryxes are born, then some might be released back into the wild. They have already done this with some oryxes, which have been released in Tunisia. The oryx breeding program has been a huge success, but there are many other strange and beautiful creatures still in danger. If places like Marwell Wildlife didn't help, many of these amazing animals would die out completely.
This is Gonzalo. He's a photographer. At the moment, he is living and working in New York. Every day, he takes photos of the city and its people. Gonzalo came to New York 2 years ago from Guatemala. He found a job and is now living in the East Village. He has a photography studio in his apartment, and he uses lots of different equipment. Gonzalo loves his life and his work, but he wasn't always a photographer.
I went to school for something completely different. I went to law school. I graduated from law school. I went to UFM. I have a law degree from UFM. But when I graduated, I was not happy with my choice of career.
Gonzalo was working for a newspaper when he decided to become a photographer and moved to the United States. Gonzalo now works as a professional fashion photographer. He uses several different cameras and lenses, but one camera is particularly special.
My first camera actually is this one. I inherited from my grandfather. He passed away when I was 7 years old. My grandfather was German. This is a German camera. It's a Leica M2. It is still mint condition. I treasure it so much. I barely use it, but I mean, it takes amazing quality photographs still. So.
Today, Gonzalo is taking photographs of a model for a famous fashion website. But Gonzalo likes to photograph, or shoot, lots of different things. What are his favorites?
My favorite things to shoot, it's a very tough question because I shoot a lot of things. I love to shoot portraits. I love to shoot the street. I'm a big sports fan, so I like to shoot sports a lot.
Photography isn't always easy. Gonzalo travels a lot, and at the moment, he is working on 3 different jobs. So why does he enjoy his job?
It entertains me. It distracts me. It stops me from worrying about my everyday troubles or my stress or anything. So I enjoy it. I enjoy it, you know.
For Gonzalo, every day is different. And in a city like New York, there's always something new and exciting to photograph.
The British High Street has always been a popular place to buy and sell. Recently, however, this has changed. 14% of town centre shops are now empty. So, where have all the shoppers gone? This is the Oracle in Reading, England. It opened in 1999 and it cost £250 million to build. Today, it has 90 shops on 3 different levels and covers over 80,000 square metres. Shoppers can browse their favourite labels, have a meal or a drink in one of its 22 restaurants, cafes and bars, or even watch a film in its 10-screen cinema. With its glass roof and riverside location, the Oracle offers a 21st century shopping experience. It is an exciting and entertaining place where you can buy all of today's most fashionable brand names. But shopping centres are not just a 21st century phenomenon. The Burlington Arcade, which opened in 1819, was one of the world's first shopping centres. Lord George Cavendish, the man who built the arcade, said it was for the sale of jewellery and fancy articles. Today, shoppers can still buy luxurious and unique products, such as handmade gold and silverware, precious materials, and even these golden slippers. The arcade is almost 200 metres long and has been a part of London's history for almost 200 years. However, the Burlington's owners are going to modernise this traditional shopping arcade. Something they are very excited about is that some global modern brands, like Lulu Guinness and Jimmy Choo, are going to be based there, as well as the older specialist stores, like Penhaligon's and the jewellers Hemming of London. The Burlington Arcade and the Oracle are 2 very different shopping centres, but both are almost always busy. Experts predict that this is going to change as online shopping becomes more popular and people start to shop from home. However, at the moment, only about 10% of retail transactions take place online, while 31% take place in shopping centres. As long as places like the Burlington Arcade and the Oracle continue to offer convenience and choice, they will continue to be a popular place to shop.
Chicago is the largest city in the U.S. state of Illinois. Some of the things it is famous for are pizza, gangsters, and sports. This is Wrigley Field, home to the Chicago Cubs, Chicago's oldest baseball team. Many American people call Chicago the second city, because for 100 years, it had the second biggest population in the country. It was smaller than New York, but until the 1980s, it was bigger than every other American city. Today, Chicago is a very popular tourist destination. Every year, over 30 million people visit the city. They go to the Millennium Park, the newest park in Chicago. They walk along the shore of Lake Michigan, the second largest of the 5 Great Lakes. And they admire the view from the top of the Willis Tower. The Willis Tower used to be called the Sears Tower, and for 25 years it was the tallest building in the world. In 1969, Sears Roebuck and Company, the largest department store chain in the world at that time, built the tower to use as office blocks. Today, the skyscraper is one of the most popular tourist attractions in the city. It is still the tallest skyscraper in the U.S., but it isn't as tall as the Burj Khalifa in Dubai or the Petronas Twin Towers in Kuala Lumpur. Chicago's other famous nickname is the Windy City. People say that it is windier than other major cities, but weather experts disagree. In fact, scientists predict that Chicago will have a very different climate in the future. They say that it won't be as cold and windy as it is now, but will be warmer and wetter. This will mean many changes, but Chicago is further ahead than most other cities in its preparations for climate change. The city is constructing new, environmentally friendly buildings, planning more parks and green areas, and placing big hedges alongside the city's pathways. Chicago is also investing in new roads and car parks for electric cars. Chicago is a changing city. The Windy City's famous climate is going to become much warmer. Chicago will be a hotter, more tropical place than it is today. This will cause problems, but at the moment, America's second city is one of the first places to properly deal with pollution and climate change.
New Zealand is one of the most popular tourist destinations in the world. Over 2 million people come here every year. So why do so many people come to New Zealand? They come for the beautiful scenery, the relaxed atmosphere, and to experience some of the world's most exciting adventure sports. This is Queenstown, on New Zealand's South Island. It's a small town by Lake Wakatipu, surrounded by mountains. It used to be a quiet farming town, but now it's a popular destination for tourists from all over the world who are looking for excitement. This is the Shotover Jet. It's a high-speed jet boat that races through narrow, windy canyons and has been a major attraction in Queenstown since 1970. Queenstown is also home to the bungee jump. This jump on the Kowara Bridge was the first commercial bungee jump in the world. It has been a huge success for almost 30 years, and it has turned Queenstown into the adventure sports capital of the world. Today, visitors to Queenstown can do all kinds of adventure sports. As well as jet boating and bungee jumping, they can go skydiving or even parasailing. But not all visitors to New Zealand want to jump off a bridge or out of a plane. Tourists looking for something a bit more relaxed should travel 1,600 kilometres north to Auckland. Auckland is at the northern tip of New Zealand's North Island. It is between the Tasman Sea and the Hauraki Gulf, so it is the perfect place for sailing. In fact, Auckland is known as the City of Sails. It has more boats per person than any other city in the world, with around 135,000 yachts and motorboats in the city's many marinas. Auckland has hosted the most famous yacht race in the world, the America's Cup, twice. On the first occasion, the New Zealand team won. Auckland is proud of this sailing tradition. Today, tourists can hire the Team New Zealand yacht, worth millions of dollars. They can sail the yacht around the harbour, or sail it towards the ocean to see whales and dolphins. Many international visitors come to New Zealand for its adventure sports. And from Queenstown to Auckland, it's got something for everyone.